Over 50 video hacks, 10 videos, 1 series. Internet, welcome to 10.0. The first 2 hacks come from season 14, Survivor Fiji, and you best bet I wasn't going to be making another one of these without Yau-Man popping up. Let's talk about the final 7 immunity challenge, where the challenge was broken into 2 parts. The first involved the players digging in a sandy lane for 3 objects. The second part involved the players using their 3 objects, or their 3 steps, to climb a pole to grab a flag. The first part tested how fast and thorough players could dig, as we saw Yau-Man using a peculiar technique to cover his entire lane and then dig deep in one swoop. Yau-Man was testing how deep the steps were buried, so he didn't waste time in one spot for too long. Conversely, Cassandra treated it like it was kitty litter. Yau-Man also did one of my favorite maneuvers where he began to shovel his sand into Alex's lane because Alex was on the bottom and Yao didn't want Alex to win. The second part of the challenge had 3 players take their steps, lock them into an allocated fixture, and then climb to the top one step at a time. We can see the dream team intended for this to be done roughly one step at a time. Alex just leaps his way up the pole and discards the whole, putting a step in place to climb higher. Like climbing a palm tree really fast, Alex gets to the top in no time ahead of the rest. But he doesn't find his footing when he gets there and struggles to grab his flag. Boo and Dreams also copy him after they see how successful he was, although Boo does use a step at the end to brace himself. I always love it when players discard challenge items just to blitz to the finish line.
Alex, scaling to the top. Can he pull it off?
But taking it back to Yau-Man, in episode 8 of the same season, we saw him compete in a tribal immunity challenge broken up into 3 parts. The first was a blow dart competition, the second was spear throwing, and the third was archery. Blow darts was worth 1 point, spears 2, and archery 3. The blow dart part proved to be the easiest as barely anyone missed. The spear part was a lot trickier, however, as almost nobody could land a spear. For the entire challenge, only Dreams landed a spear on the outer rim, and then came Yau-Man. Yao changed it up. Whereas everyone was just landing short, Yao decided to back up and make a run with the spear, as you often see when people effectively throw spears. Yao ran to gain momentum, so his spear would travel straight, unlike everyone else whose spear just flopped forward. Yao nailed the target almost in the middle and won his tribe the 2 points. The third part was archery, and again, barely anyone could land an arrow. Michelle hit the outer rim, Dreams just barely hit the yellow, but then once again, Yau-Man showed up to show these rookies how it's done. Well, sorta. Yao did 2 things to help himself land the shot. The first was to look for the straightest arrow of the bunch. Not a big difference, but it couldn't hurt. The second was to kneel when he took aim. Kneeling often helps maintain balance and increase accuracy, especially if you don't have much practice with shooting a bow. And Yao took advantage of that. He nailed the shot, almost hitting the red and guaranteeing his tribe 1 immunity.
What kind of move will he have with a bow and arrow? Yeah, man, what are you possibly looking for?
Straightest possible arrow.
The third creative strategy comes from Dean in the finale episode of season 39, Island of the Idols. In the first immunity challenge of the finale, we saw a table maze pop up at the end of the multi-part course. The first player to land a ball in each of the 2 holes wins. One hole was halfway up the maze, the second was at the end. We have seen table mazes used a lot in Survivor, but they mostly only feature either one hole or a pattern where the holes are side by side. This one on season 39 had 2 and they were separated, and there was no rule on the order. I've talked about this maneuver before for other challenges where you start at the back and you work your way to the front, which can make the challenge easier as you get more practice. You have to sync both anyway, start with the furthest and move forward. Dean was the only player to do just that, and he won.
Dean lands his first, but he lands the deepest one, which is more difficult. Dean has 1 more ball to drop, and it's the close one, and he's quickly getting there.
But to make it even more interesting, what caught my attention is that we saw this exact maze reappear in season 42, 3 seasons later, and Jeff now specified in the rules that the players had to sync the closer hole first, likely meaning they did not want players players to replicate Dean's strategy.
Everybody dead even right now. You've got to land the first ball, the closest ball first.
The fourth hack is from Survivor 43 in the premiere episode, and I think many of you know what I'm going to talk about. In the very first challenge of the season, we saw players have to compete in a multi-part course involving lifting heavy boxes, swimming to get a boat, putting together a puzzle, and then retrieving their flint. The flint was attached to a ring dangling in the air, and players could use giant bamboo to help nudge it off. The problem was the pole the key was on was at an angle, which made lifting the key ring off difficult. The ring would slide back down unless a player was able to perfectly keep the bamboo pressed against the ring. This was proving difficult as the Blue Cocoa tribe got to this part first, but couldn't capitalize on their lead. Cody on the Red Vessi tribe thought up a brilliant solution. Instead of focusing on the ring, they should focus on the flint. Cody told Dwight to put the flint inside the bamboo to keep it steady. This little maneuver made dragging the ring off incredibly easy and won the challenge for the Vessi tribe. But we're not stopping there. The fifth creative strategy is also from the same season and in the same episode, but it's from the Blue tribe. After Vessi won the reward challenge, the punishment for the Blue and Yellow tribes was to compete in a task called Sweat or Savvy. They could pick between doing a physical task or a mental one, and while we saw Sammy on the Yellow Baka tribe intelligently discover the answer to the bone puzzle, the creative strategy comes from Ryan on the Blue Cocoa tribe, who had to dig in a large area for the pot and machete. Ryan was given 4 hours to find the bundled items, and he was partnered with Gio, who was unsure where to start. The players began digging but quickly became tired, but then Ryan realized there was a better strategy. Instead of digging in random places, they should dig in an X pattern. This strategy, this X pattern, allows them to tactically cover all 4 quadrants of the square instead of investing 1 hour into each quadrant and hoping they get lucky. And the strategy proved incredibly effective as Ryan found the items in less than 30 minutes. But we're still not stopping just yet. Even though I said 5 moments would be included, let's add one more. From Survivor 43. From the same episode as the previous 2. I think this is a record. In the immunity challenge, players had to run through an obstacle course that ended in a table maze. Each tribe had a different maze, but the first tribe to sink all 3 balls would win or get second, assuming they were the second tribe to finish. While the Blue tribe's maze was fairly basic and just took time, and the Yellow's was, well, it was a modified version of Dean's from Island of the Idols. The Red tribe had less of a maze and more of a straight shot. It was a single lane with tiny bumpers. The Red tribe struggled to figure out how to make this work. Even with the bumpers, it was difficult. Because 2 players were holding the handle, navigating a tight beam was tricky. But they managed to find momentum after they stopped working side by side and instead stood one in front of the other. Jesse positioned himself behind Noel, and this allowed them to focus their hands on the same spot doing the same thing at the same time. They only did this for the first ball though, as I have heard this technique was not allowed. The producers made them separate, but then we did see Jesse in future attempts place his hand under the table to help stabilize it. Also, not sure if that was allowed, if Jeff even caught it, but either way, if Jeff is telling you to stop, you're probably doing something right. And that's it. That's 5 more times Survivor players hack challenges. I would just say as a little bit behind the scenes of how to make these videos, I did definitely expect to have a 10.0 way before, but I did not expect to see so many from one episode. Pretty wild. Will we get an 11.0? Who knows? Maybe if you're listening to me talk right now for the next Survivor season, you could help me out. A big thank you to my patrons for supporting me enough to make 10 of these now. Thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to balance your balls carefully on your way out, and I will see you in the next one. Once I, of course, dig as deep as a turtle birthing an egg.
That is the fastest anybody's ever gotten under a log.
Go.
Here comes Debbie for the Brain Tribe, like a turtle birthing an egg.
What? Bro, what are you talking about, man?